Hey everybody, so here I've got a Usopp list. This is a list that top forward at my regionals over the weekend. Kind of the big takeaways I saw from it are they're playing 4 of this Gats. And I was just kind of curious how this would look against Shanks or what this was for specifically. I could see it also having some utility in pretty much every matchup, being able to swing a Cavendish to turn it plays into anything. But we'll kind of see what this looks like and see how we like it. Alright. Okay guys, so I've got a couple of games here against Lucci. I'm just going to start playing it and we can talk about a little bit like what the matchup is like. So here my opponent takes forever, so I'm going to skip ahead a tiny bit. There we go. And here's our starting hand. We got our searcher we're looking for to start, both of them even. So what I've learned against this Lucci matchup is that we really need to be taking every 7-drop Rebecca, pretty much. In this game, I believe I end up with either none or very few 7-drop Rebeccas. And here, obviously, downside of the 1-drop Rebecca, she can't search up the other Rebecca. And I try, and it doesn't work. I have to move on to my next choice. This main Cherie on my opponent's board can be pretty annoying, but luckily if they do choose to use it, we've got these little guys to send at it. I'm pretty happy here to just keep my life total high against Lucci. I think that there's an argument to take, but it would be really hard for us to draw. And here we get to draw a card, so. So on this turn, obviously I don't want this Brook to stay around, but I haven't found stage yet either. So I choose to take the more controlling route. I'm pretty happy if they want to spend their turn removing a Zoro. And obviously if they do that, we're trying to set up for later game plays anyway. Notably, they just got a Jack, so they can search that back up with Mancherry if they want. Okay, so they dropped the 4-drop Kuzan here, and I'm a little sad, obviously, that I used my Zoro already, but I think it was worth it. They are going to get that Jack back. Oh no, they took a Brook. So, they're not as interested in the Jack, but it's fine. I'm looking at my hand and wishing I had a way to get rid of this, but I'm at 6 Dawn. Notably, this would be a really good spot for Gats if we had it, but we don't, and we don't have stage either, so it's not exactly going how I would hope without a stage and without a 7-drop Rebecca. Just to spoil the game a little bit, I guess, we have a very close one that we probably should lose. Frankie, obviously, in this matchup is really good. He's gonna do here, if they remove him, he's gonna draw me a card, and he's going to bring back something from the grave. I probably have the Rebecca in there that they KO'd earlier. Now they're giving me a Leo. Obviously, I can't bring back the Leo without stage, but I can bring back the Rebecca if they remove it here. I just let the Leo go. Not worth trying to save with Frankie here. So generally, if you don't know, this Usopp matchup into Lucci is highly favored for Usopp. And the main reason for that is as they remove your things, you're gaining resources back, and Lucci is attempting to remove all of your resources. I think there's an argument there to have taken that Luffy and then to swing at this Brook and Kuzan this turn, but I'm also, you know, looking at the stageless game and just trying to maneuver my way around it. Much different game with stage, obviously. Yeah, and I choose to keep the Zoro here so we can pressure the Kuzan. So if we're going to pressure the Kuzan, might as well put the Dawn on. Just to pause for a sec, I do think it's probably worth it just to swing the 5 at Usopp first at it. And then if he wants to give me counter, I can swing the Zoro in the same way. Just because we're playing a game of running them out of their resources, since we are kind of the better deck at drawing cards, especially now that they don't have Moria. And it looks like I'm going to get aggressive just because I didn't want to give them the Brook back in their hand, which is what Kairos would have done. I mean, I will say with them being low on resources, there's a decent argument to just put that Brook back in their hand and to have an 8-cost body on the field. And maybe that actually helps me with this game in the long run if I have a big body this turn. Let's see where he's swinging here. I think I'm pretty happy to give a 2K, but we'll see. Definitely thinking about it. Yeah. The reason I go for it is just because the Frankie's going to draw me cards again. Either way, so I might as well save him and draw off the Frankie if they either remove it with the Brook. Interesting. Okay. So my opponent really wants to get rid of this Zoro. We're still going to use all this action here while we can, and that's good because they didn't end up swinging at us again anyway. So now my opponent is the one with the full board, where, you know, ideally I would have been playing Rebecca a while back and just flooding this board with difficult to kill threats, but that's not how the game went. My opponent's gonna aggressively counter to save this Brook. I guess defensively counter. But yeah, I'm gonna see how much they want to keep it around. And then another nice part about new Lucci is it is much harder for them to cycle Rebecca. So things like killing Brooks actually feel like they have some sort of effect on the game. I'm doing the same calculation here that I think I did the... Yeah, okay, so here I forgot I didn't have stage, so I was about to Gats the Cavendish and swing at one of these bodies, probably the Brook. But that's not an option, so I think if I had remembered that, the clear play is just to Kairos the Brook back to hand again, but, you know, we all make mistakes. So in this weird game where I don't have any stage or 7 drop, I think in my mind, my plan was to just try to make sure I'm drawing as often as possible. Try to like put bodies out that they need to reduce to kill so they actually have to play cards from their hand. And just sort of make it annoying to ever tap their characters. But you can see how much it hurts not to have stage. I ended that turn with 3 extra Dawn and nothing to spend it on because of the Cavendish mishap. So, you know, it's a spot where I would argue that maybe I deserve to lose this game. Here I was thinking of countering a 2K just to draw a card, but decided against it. My opponent is going to make sure that that Cavendish doesn't stick around, which is totally fair. That's what they should do. And they have another Rebecca here as well. And then they're going to get a little aggressive. They're going to clear. So you can see like the game state isn't exactly where we want it, obviously. I'm going to finally play out my stage. Now I have 2 somehow in 1 turn, but I'm going to have that cookie crumbles. I actually don't think this turn I was super planning ahead. It's another one where I think I was just like, okay, well, I can clear a good amount of stuff. But once again, I don't have anything to do really with this 4 Dawn. So, you know, there's an argument again that I kind of looking at my hand, I'm like, really? Just 4K counter and a bunch of other stuff? I'm just waiting on my opponent. You can see like how odd these like Usopp hands are when you don't have that 7 drop. My opponent's going to get aggressive with me to check what my counter situation looks like. I choose to counter out here, and so I'm going to pause. The reason why I'm countering out is because I don't want my opponent to realize that they can just get me to 1 life and that I don't have any counter in hand. So currently I'm kind of hoping that I make them decide between actually attacking my life or my characters. Ideally I want them to attack into my characters to keep this game going as long as possible. And you know, I'm feeling pretty good having this Kairos and this red rock for this whole game. I keep expecting them to play out one of these Kaidos, but they never really give me the opportunity to red rock one. This is where I start to sweat again. It's just a lot of threats, and I think luckily here I drew into some more blockers. But it's definitely a turn where I have to think through what I'm doing. I think this is where I also start. That swing is a pretty good indication, right, that they just don't have a 2K. Just because I think making them have it is real. So here I send the Hina back, and I play out a blocker. You know, it's like an interesting decision point, because I don't actually know the list well enough, but it might be much more likely that they have removal in hand than that they need a cost reduction card in hand. But yeah, here we have 2 Gum Gum Giants, so I'm sort of staring at these and kind of figuring this is probably the only way I'm like winning this game. And finally the Rebecca shows up, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's something. Oh yeah, and they do have the Kaido here as well to remove my body. So, like I said, I think that there's a, you know, like this Lucci matchup is probably like 70% Usopp favored, but this is definitely a game where you can kind of see what has to happen to not get there. And my opponent still is at 4 life here too, so But I get to use this Gats here. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, just because it's not a card that sees a lot of play. So it's going to give my Kairos the ability to swing at this Kaido and clear it off the board. And I really need to do that, right? Because I'm at 1 life and I have no blockers currently. And we'll kind of see how this goes. I'm thinking here, do I need to get rid of that Lucci to survive? Probably, based on my hand of 2k counter. They're pretty priced into just going for game if they have a Lucci and the Lucci leader. But now that's not really an option, and I finally get to swing into life. And they're gonna take it because, you know, they're looking for any resources to kill my board here. Not sure. I think I'm taking a moment to also think about what my game plan was there. And I'm sorting these giants because, you know, part of me just is like, the only way I'm winning, I think, is if I can do these giants properly. Because my opponent doesn't know it, but if they were to, say, swing 7 at me right now, and then the next turn remove a blocker and swing 7 at me again, I would lose the game. Here I do get to counter out. The reason I counter out is because even though he's a blocker I could play next turn, it's just so likely my opponent can remove that body. I think here we get lucky as well. Oh, never mind. Unlucky. This lets him clear both of our bodies, so I was trying to think if there's a world where, you know, I swing 5 and he just takes it because he wants the cards, and then I could do like 7, 12 or something. Or like 9, 11, whatever it is, with the Gum Gatlings. So here I almost say GG's, because I don't see the way to win. But we'll see. It's pretty unlikely here that anything good is gonna happen, but I poke. And now I'm looking, I'm like, okay, well, if I can survive another turn, I'm pretty sure I can kill with these King Kong guns, but I'm gonna need to hit something off this Rebecca. Oh, I lied. That's so funny. Okay, so I need to remove a body. So we're removing a body. And then we're gonna play the Frankie. So new hope arises, and that is that my Frankie does some really good stuff, for one. And that they just don't have the cost reduction to kill the Frankie with the Brook. If they can cost reduct, kill Frankie with Brook, I think that they just win the game. But, you know, we will try. I'm kind of wondering if I'm supposed to bottom deck the Lucci, but I think that the Brook being on the bottom of his deck is slightly better for me, because it does reduce that ability for him to kind of just swing. So he revealed Kaku, which is not a removal card. So I end up taking it here. So here my opponent has 2 swings, and I think that they just make a terrible play mistake. They're very scared of something. But I think if they split these cards up just right, I lose almost for sure. Maybe my opponent is scared here off what I draw from this Leo. Only a 2k and a 1k. So yeah, notably if my opponent were to just swing all in here, they would have won. And I'm guessing that's probably what they should do, but at 2 life, I think they just feel pretty safe. But, you know, if my opponent had played a little bit more aggressively here, they would have won the game. Instead, they did give me a shot. So, if they're going to give me a shot, I'm going to take it. And King Kong Gun makes the numbers pretty weird. So, I get to swing a 9, 10, 11 here. I think. Interesting. Yeah, I'm trying to get the 2 biggest swings I can, and then we can save the Usopp for last. So that'll be 11, 11. Even if they can get past this first one, I would have had a second one. And they just don't have the counter. Okay, so yeah, so this game, I really do feel like, just based on this, I should have lost. And really, like, the only thing that got me was how broken King Kong Gun is in this deck. And I wasn't playing it for a long time. So I think definitely going forward, I'm going to be playing 2 just for these kind of crazy situations like this. Okay, this is my more traditional game against Lucci that kind of shows like how one-sided it is when you see what you need to see. So I think like to juxtapose, whatever the word is, to justifies it. Sure, we'll go with that. We can watch one where everything kind of goes the way we want it to, and just show off how rude we can be to these Luccis. Totally different game. Finding stage right away. I'm grabbing a 2K because we were low on counter. And I'm actually going to get rid of the gun, even though in the last matchup we needed it to win. I just don't foresee that being an average outcome against Lucci. So I toss it. What I do see being an average outcome against Lucci is actually drawing your 7-drop Rebecca's. And so here we do that. I end up taking the Kairos. I'm obviously not, you know, terrified of anything here. Just kind of doing my thing. Alright, so now we're totally set up, right? We've got a 7-drop play. We've got our stage. If he wants to turn anything on his board sideways, we can Cavendish. And next turn we're going to be a 5-Don. So I'm looking at my hand and I'm thinking, like, I could just Cavendish Gats into something as well. Especially if he wants to play something good for me to swing at. Like a Laboon, for instance. So, I don't know, we'll see if past me had the same thought. I do like this play though, being able to kind of out of nowhere attack these active characters with something other than the 7-drop. A lot of times opponent doesn't necessarily see it coming. Cavendish is getting a lot of value off that swing. And we're quickly taking our opponent down. They get to keep the Laboon obviously, but you know, like if they wanted to use the Dawn to just swing into our character, it would be pretty equivalent to the Laboon tapping. And you know, looking at our hand, we're pretty happy if he wants to tap down anything on his board for us to swing into next turn. Just waiting on my opponent here. He's a thinking man. It has been interesting seeing Lucci's try to adapt as well to the ban list. I think that, you know, them having, okay, well, that's an interesting play. So he must not have had any removal in his hand, because he is not playing the long game there. He's just going to clear it no matter what. Here our play seems pretty straightforward. We're going to want to bounce that Laboon back and just play out, you know, Kairos and Cavendish. There's an argument to just play the Sabo here. But I think we go with Cavendish, keep the counter in hand. Sabo is really great though. The only downside is I don't think I had... Yeah, I don't have a hand that's good at protecting the swing on the Sabo, the first swing. So my opponent could just pretty easily have sent, you know, 6 at him before killing the stuff on my board. So we go with the Cavendish. He's a harder body to swing into. My opponent seems like he wants to kill him. We're going to keep our life high since we have the board advantage here. They're going to need a lot of reduction if they're going to clear multiple bodies this turn. And they start out with a decent amount. But it looks like they're just going to get the 1. So we're pretty happy because we're also going to draw a card off of this. Okay, so my first thought is let's get some life out of him. I know that we're just gonna Gum Red Rock this, so all of the rest of this is just to reduce hand size as much as possible, or to get him low if he really wants to keep his hand, right? I think our opponent here is doing his best not to die to an onslaught of my creatures. So he's going to give me hand size rather than life. And I'm going to just annoy him and get rid of that. Just thinking ahead here, I think their best play is to do something like swing at Rebecca, play the 9-drop that gets rid of Spandime and probably KOs my Kairos. And then we can have some board parity. Or not even parity, but they'd be ahead on board for the first time in the game, really. My opponent taking time. It's totally fine. This point in the game sometimes is like, you know, the deciding point in the game. I guess we're just taking time to check my grave and see what the plan is based on what's in there. Alright, so they're finally playing that Laboon back out. So they're probably going for a play that clears our Kairos. We just let this go. Yep. And there needs this 5 cost. Who's who? 2k. Clear our board. I feel like a lot we could do this turn. I think there's an argument that I should not swing this 5 here, just because I have so many swings in hand that I could use. I do like this choice. I think just producing so many bodies that, you know, with his 4-card hand, if he really wants to manage all those bodies, he's gonna... First off, I'm gonna draw a card, and then I'm gonna use Frankie to get... Let's find out. I don't have a Rebecca, and I don't think I have a Leo, so I don't even know what I'd get back. I guess just a 2k. Or not 2k, a blocker. But I'm a little sad. You can see I could look again. You know, still no Rebecca, still no Leah. What are the chances? They're pretty good. I haven't done a lot of milling this game. And my 2 have just been sitting here because he has not brooked me. Frankie's being 5 costs at the moment. Big boon. We're fine if he gets rid of our littlest blocker. And here we're gonna keep maintaining our life total, I imagine. And then we probably block another swing here and get back to the blocker because it's pretty free. Oh, he helps us out. Why, thank you. Just what we needed. So this is the type of play you get to do as Usopp because you just have so many more resources than your opponent. I just clear 2 of his bodies, and then I get to start pressuring life with 5k swings, right? I'm at 3 life, so there's literally no way I can think that we die with 2Ks in our hand. And we get to either, like I said, take life at this point or whittle their hand down even more, so they have even less options. And if our opponent wants to attack into our Frankie, it's kind of like we just blocked with it anyway, right? I would like to get this Coliseum out of my hand eventually. That'd be cool. I also don't think it's gonna matter. My opponent's kind of telling me we just don't probably have removal. Looks like he actually skipped minusing anything this turn. I just keep it alive just because, you know, just gonna kill him next turn. Oh, interesting. Okay, so they do have to play the 9-drop Stussy and they clear body, but at that point they're just out of resources, right? So any amount of swings, they are gonna lose this game. Yeah. So anyway, I think these are both good games to show kind of like, even in a worst case scenario, Usopp can like win a game against this leader just because the gap between them is so large. And then, you know, like this game has pretty handedly defeated my opponent with 3 life left. And I was kind of just in the driver's seat the whole game, more or less. So yeah, let me know what you think about Lucci versus Usopp, and I'll see you in the next one.